It's time to get you caught up with all things sports.
Yes! 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 Yes!
On the throw-in.
One thing is certain. None of this is possible without you, the listeners.
From baseball, football, wrestling, and more, covering local Cincinnati sports, stories, news, and highlights.
Why is he always calling me meat?
With your host, Justin Trento.
When it's all said and done, we're going to look back and remember this is what started it all.
Available on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Let's play the ball! Let's play the ball!
What is going on, everyone, and welcome to a Friday's edition. I'm just getting my camera set up here of this episode of the Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. My name is Justin. I got an exciting 2-hour episode for you today. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I feel like there has been a lack of sports conversation, sports news. It's kind of been a dead week. And you're like, well, Justin, let's talk about football. And yes, there's some football conversation. Justin, let's talk about WWE. Yes, there's WWE conversations. Hey, Justin, let's talk about Major League Baseball, Cincinnati Reds. We are actually counting down the days before the Reds hit spring training. And those are all valid points. But it's been a dead week, in my opinion. And it's been a long week, I will say that. Happy Black History Month. I don't know how many times am I going to reference Black History Month. There's a lot of athletes out there that have left inspirations. Hank Aaron, Barry Bonds, Michael Jordan, that just left their mark in the professional sport. And by all means, we want to celebrate them. All right, we're going to turn the clock. We have a lot of everything to go, a little bit of everything going on for you today. But without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in a friend of mine this all is happening last minute. All of our guests on our show is given to you thanks to StreamYard. StreamYard Studios, a proud home of the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel, where you can create podcasts, videos, host virtual business meetings, and even conduct interviews. Check out their free version today at StreamYard.com. All right, let's welcome in at this time my guest. Oh, he's going to get himself situated. So we'll actually be bringing on Steve Barber, the host of the Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast and the host of Cubicle Chat. As he gets ready, we actually last minute, he called me on to his podcast. He was like, I'm going to do a podcast about this weekend. There's a big hype about what's going to happen here tomorrow afternoon. And he was like, listen, let me, hey, why don't you join me? It's like, this isn't really my expertise on this subject. It's like, no, don't worry about it. We'll bring you on. And we actually had a really good recording. I'm pretty sure he's working on uploading it right now, but let's bring in Steve. Steve, how you doing today?
Doing all right, Justin. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's been seems like we've been crossing each other's paths quite often. I actually enjoy it very much so. But you actually texted me earlier this morning about a pretty impactful game in the sports world coming up this weekend. And that is the Duke versus North Carolina. And we just did a show on Cubicle Chat, your podcast, I was telling everyone about, but kind of explain to me, if you don't mind, the history between Duke and North Carolina.
Duke, man, come on. Tar Heels forever. But But Duke and North Carolina, they are actually two of the most winningest programs in NCAA college basketball, men's college basketball. They have been playing each other since 1920. We actually were discussing that on Cubicle Chat, and they have played each other. This will be the 261st meeting. Right now, North Carolina does have the edge. I don't actually have the record for, but they have the edge by actually quite a bit. But this is, to me, is the biggest sports rivalry in all of
143 to 117.
I don't. Well, it was 143. I don't think the other. You know what? I do have it in my notes though from the show earlier. I should have had them up. 143 to 117. Yeah, you're right. 143,
Hey.
117, North Carolina. And just to explain why this is such a big rivalry, because, well, for one, the two teams, they're part of Tobacco Road, which includes North Carolina Duke, North Carolina State, and Wake Forest. You know, they're part of the Big Four ACC team, the Atlantic Coast Conference teams right there in North Carolina. The two schools are only located 10 miles driving, you know, and that's along Highway 15501. Also, the Durham Chapel Hill Boulevard is another name for it, but most people in North Carolina know it as 15501. And they're 10 miles driving, 8 miles in a straight line. Once in each college's respective arenas, in the Dean Smith Center, also known as the Dean Dome, at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, and then at the Cameron Sports Arena, the Cameron Indoor Sports Arena at Duke University. And these two teams, when they play, of course, in the Atlantic Coast Conference, well, when they go, they're not just playing for the conference championship. These two schools are usually in contention for the national championship, because North Carolina currently has, actually, I got to tell you, you just spelled cubicle wrong, but it's all right. It's Cubicle chat.
Oh my goodness, I am so sorry.
Oh, you're fine. It happens, but they are in contention for national championship, because North Carolina currently has 6 national championships under their belt. Duke actually has 5. And as far as is
that correct on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
And if you're talking about, I don't forget what I was saying. Oh, winningest programs of just any game. Currently, North Carolina is the 3rd highest ranked of all time. Duke is 4th. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, they are always just butting that they've both been in the top 10. To put that in a little bit of perspective, the next closest two teams that have played each other while they've both been in the top 10 has only done it 15 times. And ironically enough, it's North Carolina and North Carolina State, because North Carolina State they used to be a powerhouse too. You know, don't forget about them. But, and also, there was actually something else that I was going to mention. Oh, in 2020, the year 2021, when they played each other that year, it was down years for both teams. Neither one were actually in the top 25 when they played. The last time that had happened was 1955. So you're talking, so you're talking 64 years, 64 straight years that whenever they played each other, at least one of them was in the top 25. And you're talking a in the NCAA tournament, North Carolina has 131 wins. Duke has 118. North Carolina is actually in the lead on that. Technically they're tied with Kentucky, but Duke is 3rd, 118. As far as like just NCAA appearances overall, I mean, let's see, just the appearances. North Carolina is 2nd overall behind Kentucky with 52. Duke is number 5 with 45 appearances. I mean, and which it might not sound like a big number, but Kentucky only, they have 60. So, right. They're always in the tournament right now. The tournament appearance streaks, North Carolina has the 2nd highest with 27 straight years being in the tournament. Duke has the 4th highest with 24 straight years. So, I mean, these are two just absolute, they're part of, I don't know if Duke is considered blue blood. They might be. Because I know North Carolina and Kentucky, Kansas, I know they definitely are considered blue bloods. And I'll bet, I'll throw Duke in there as well, as much as what I don't like Duke. but I mean,
Well, we talked about this, and we talked about the rich history, but we talked about not just the battle that they put on the field, because trust me, they have some pretty aggressive, games, throughout their lifespan. But we talked about on your podcast about the class that they had, the class
yes,
that they have outside of the court, and what what it means. And I just like, when you compared a lot of great things, a lot of great games, or a lot of great rivalries, sometimes they don't have that class outside the actual sport. So to see Duke, North Carolina, I think that's just on a different level.
yes, because I mentioned on the show, man, it does kind of transcend sports. Because when we're talking, thankfully, a lot of the other people who support both teams also understand it is just a game. Because I mentioned when the young lady, she at the time she was the president of the student body president of the University of North Carolina. Well, unfortunately, she was actually basically kidnapped, forced to withdraw money out of her ATM, and then she was killed. And they caught the guys, thankfully, who did it. But the next game, just a few days later, just happened to be North Carolina traveling to Duke to play at their court. Well, Duke actually had, and it was a joint thing, but it just happened to be held at Duke. They had a joint memorial service, for this young lady, who was murdered.
Right.
And then when Dean Smith, of course, a long time coach for North Carolina, when he passed away, just happened to be the next game, just happened to be also at Cameron. And, so they did the same thing. They also had a memorial service for Dean Smith because it showed how much the two teams, when they are on the court against each other. Oh yeah. I mean, it's no punches pulled. I mean, they're all in it because they're in it to win it, because this is their biggest rival. But at the same time, when Mike Krzyzewski, of course, a long time, probably the most famous coach of Duke, and he's also right now the winningest coach of all time in men's basketball, he passed up Dean Smith to get that, and of course he just kept adding to his win total. And when he went to the funeral for Dean Smith, he actually put on a Carolina blue tie, not a Duke blue, but Carolina blue, in honor of Dean Smith. So this rivalry, I mean, in 2006, the game that they played in March, because they always play the first part of February, then the first part of March, and it's the last regular season game for both of these teams. So sometimes it's the last regular season game for all of NCAA men's basketball a lot of times. But the game was broadcast on ESPN, and it's still, from what I was reading, it is still the highest viewed game of any sport ever on ESPN. And you think about all the things that ESPN shows. This includes, I mean, you're talking playoff, NFL playoff games. You're talking, of course, a lot of college basketball. You're talking, just other regular season games that are very, very wanted, I guess. People are expecting a big viewership in that game. I mean, of course, that year, North Carolina was the defending national champs because they won the championship in 2005. They were defending national champs, and it was Tyler Hansbrough. It was actually his freshman year. And, so this was like the highest viewed game of any event on ESPN. And so it shows how much of a rivalry this game has, because the fact that both teams are always in national, 99% of the time, they're both in national championship contention. No other rivalry can say that. And I'm talking like, and I live in Ohio, and I'm going to have to switch cameras here because it's starting to act up on me. And the, there we go.
There we go.
I don't like this camera as much, but you know what? Hey, so be it. But since I live in Ohio now, of course, everybody talks about the Ohio State, and the team up north is what they call it. But I'll say it's Ohio State, Michigan. Michigan, who just won the national championship in football. They say, well, that's a great rivalry too. And I'll say, well, not really, because Michigan had a lot of down years, when Ohio State was one, but then vice versa. They're not both in the national championship talk every single year. Alabama, Auburn, same thing in football. They're not both in the national championship talk every single year. And what's some of the other ones? I mean, even some of the rivalries out on the West Coast. I mean, you have UCLA and USC, which is a great rivalry, don't get me wrong, but neither one of them are usually in the national championship. And then when you go professional sports, I try not to. I mean, and I know there's some big rivalries in professional sports because I mean you have the Yankees and the Red Sox. You have, right now, like we mentioned, the Patriots and the Colts was kind of big for a while, but that was more or less a not Drew Bledsoe, Brady and Manning. But that's kind of fizzled out.
I mean, I grew up, the Chargers and the Raiders. I mean, when the Raiders were down in LA, that was because of all the history they've had, that was a big feud. Right. We're talking to Steve, host of Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast and Cubicle Chat. You can check out his latest episode. Has it been posted already?
Yes.
Okay,
it's been posted. Yep.
Later today. What is the title of it?
The title is, make sure I get it right.
Is it Duke versus North Carolina?
Something similar. North Carolina and Duke. That's all I named it. Very simple title.
Okay.
Yeah, just
very
North
simple.
Carolina.
Because that is the game this weekend, probably one of the biggest games in NCAA college basketball. Probably this weekend. This also starts setting the tone for what we could see coming into the March Madness Nerd Tournament, which is about a month away. They play tomorrow night, February 3rd, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on ESPN. It's the ranked number 7 Duke Blue Devils taking on the number 3 North Carolina Tar Heels. Now, I do want to ask, I was looking at some of the reports and some of the previews, we mentioned this on your podcast, but North Carolina has dominated. They just got off of a 10-game winning streak. They ended up losing on Tuesday, 74-73 against Georgia Tech. But Duke at the same time, right? And this is what makes this rival and this game coming up, game tomorrow, so interesting to watch. Because despite of multiple injuries, they've won 3 in a row, and 11 of their last 12. Duke has won their last 4 road games, including the victory against Virginia Tech on Monday, 77-67. So, you as a Tar Heel fan, are you worried? You came off the long streak, but are you worried as a fan that Duke may have that upper advantage on the road?
When it comes to Duke and North Carolina, honestly, anything can happen. And because if you look in the past history, I mean, there have been times where, I know a few times North Carolina was actually not ranked, and they walked into Cameron Indoor and they knocked Duke out. In fact, Coach Mike Krzyzewski, his last game at Cameron Indoor, of course, was against North Carolina. It was the final game of the season, the way it always is. And because it was his final regular season game, they had it there at Duke. Carolina walked in and beat Mike Krzyzewski on his home court in his very last home game. And North Carolina that was the year, ironically enough, they actually were the national runner-up that year. This was just 2 years ago, 2022. And North Carolina also, they were pretty close to not even making the tournament that year. That was actually a down year for them. Not like last year was a really down year for them. They didn't even make the tournament last year, the big tournament, which is rare. But then that year also in the Final Four was the only time North Carolina and Duke have ever met each other in the NCAA tournament. And Mike Krzyzewski's last game, not just last home game, last game, they beat him. And so I mean, and of course Duke, they were heavily favored. Didn't matter. I mean, it was the Final Four, but Duke was very heavily favored. They had a 4 seed. North Carolina had an 8 seed.
Since our recording, I do see North Carolina has the -5 and the over/under is 151.
Okay,
so
they must have just updated that. Let me look on.
I just saw that. I've updated. So I'm on the website right now. All this is coming from CBS Sports. I think I like CBS Sports. But Tar Heels for life. So I guess there's a little bit of a biased opinion. For me, I'm about a good basketball game. I've been watching the last couple of Xavier games, including this past one where they came back after being down from St. John's for the entire game. They came back. They ended up winning. And I thought this was like an incredible win for them. They had a win a couple weeks ago. It was 92-91. I forgot the team who they were playing against. It was
Xavier.
Yeah, Xavier. I don't know who they were playing against, but man, it was they're at home, and it was such a great game. like it just motivates you to wanting to watch college basketball for. And tomorrow night we're going to get a treat. 6:30 p.m. ESPN, number 7 Duke taking on number 3 North Carolina. Anyway, the last question, I'm gonna leave it to you. Do you have a prediction on the point spread for this?
Oh, like
It's gonna be high scoring, low scoring. It's gonna be a blowout. Well, hopefully it's a blowout for you, right?
I always want North Carolina to have a blowout, but usually their games are always close. Do you know? There's Duke's way, and that's always a horrible thing for me being a North Carolina fan. And yeah, but I mean the games, they're always intense. Oddly enough, I will say the games are actually more intense when they play in Cameron Indoor because it's a smaller arena.
Yeah,
because Cameron Indoor, it only holds like 5,000, whereas the Dean Dome, I want to say, holds closer to 20. Right. And so it's a little more intense there just because it's smaller.
Right.
But I never try to predict anything in theirs because, anytime they play Duke, I do worry, but at the same time, I'm still confident, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And because both teams are going to be putting on their best, they're both going to be very intense. They're going to be, given 110% because of who they're playing.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys, we can talk about this. It's actually come out. And they admitted that during like their off time, a lot of times they will actually travel and play pickup games with each other.
Yeah.
And so, and that's, not on a court, that's just, not on a formal court, not, in the Dean Dome or Cameron Indoor, but like on like an outdoor court in a park somewhere, and they're just playing pickup games. And it's not necessarily, okay, we're still Duke and you're still Carolina. They'll mix it up and, maybe like 4-4, 3-3,
right.
where it has a mixture of the players on the both teams. And so, but yeah, it is a rivalry that it's hard to match it. There's actually been books written about it. There was a congressman, I didn't mention this on the podcast, but I should have. He was big Tar Heel supporter. And he actually said, I'll say it again. He said, if it came down to Duke playing the Taliban, I'll have to cheer for the Taliban.
Gosh, this is good stuff. I think, listen, Duke and North Carolina is just the tip of the iceberg of what, rivalries can become over the years. But Steve, hey, listen, I want to thank you for your time coming on the show. Be sure to check out Steve Barber over there at Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. I forgot the the podcast part. But at Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast, uploading weekly. I think we just you just had an episode with BC Hunter a couple of days ago. And then that was BC actually the Royal Rumble preview post
review.
Review.
BC Hunter from Wrestling with the 80s. He's currently video only. Great show. BC. He's actually out of Nova Scotia, Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very familiar. With that place through television, of course. But you can also follow his Steve's other podcast, Cubicle Chat, which you could now check on the latest podcast of Duke and North Carolina, available on all audio platforms. So be sure to follow his social media accounts and you just contact him personally. He'll just get you in the right direction there. But Steve, hey, thank you so much for taking the time joining us here talking some Duke and North Carolina basketball today.
Well, thank you, Justin. If you want to hit up my show or shows, Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast at Gmail or Cubicle Chat Podcast at Gmail, just hit me up. I keep listening to the TNC Sports Talk because Justin puts his heart and soul into every episode, and he talks about things that he's a fan of, and you can tell because the passion just comes through. So thank you again, Justin, for having me on, and thank you for coming on my show and shows, actually multiple.
No worries. You have a great rest of your day.
All right, dude. We'll see you.
All right, that was Steve Barber from Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast and Cubicle Chat. Check out and follow his social media accounts as well. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Come on back, get things scheduled in. If you have an impactful 2 hours for you coming up here, don't go nowhere. You guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty. Well, we got to give a big shout out to StreamYard Studios, the proud home of the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel, where you can create podcasts, videos, host virtual business meetings, and even conduct interviews. Check out their free version today at StreamYard.com. Always great having Steve on. Hopefully we could do it some more. I know we've been elaborating a lot more. We've been helping him out over there at Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. As you know, he just has normally it's Steve and Dwaylen, but Dwaylen has been dealing with a lot of things on his own end that has prevented him from joining the show. So it's an honor. It's a privilege when you get a chance to fill in. Although you go check out Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast, and you just know that you just can't fill in a spot like Dwaylen's position. So, but great talking to him. We're looking forward to seeing him again here very shortly. And I didn't really quite know, or the Duke in North Carolina. Like I said, he texted me this morning. To kind of we always been chattering back and forth. It's like, I'm about to do a podcast on my cubicle chat, and I'm about to record talking about Duke in North Carolina. He was like, why don't you come and join? And I was like, man, I really don't know a whole lot about Duke in North Carolina, nonetheless college basketball. So I was just like, you know what, I would love to. I don't want to come on and ruin a perfectly good episode. He was like, no, you'll be fine. So we jumped on, had a good time last minute. Man, it's always fun talking to the guy, picking his brain, learning about he's just so knowledgeable. What we have going on for our show today, I got another interview that I have lined up, coming up here on hour number 2 with a friend of mine that owns a local retail store, and trying to promote some of that business, keep on working on interviews going around. So we will be playing that video in hour number 2. I got the next big thing is WWE top 10 wrestlers. Steve talked about this, with me off camera. He was like, man, because I asked him, because he's kind of been writing solo lately. And I asked him, I was like, what are you going to do are you going to do your top 5 of 2023 in matches, or top 10 wrestlers? He's like, man, you're already 2 months away. I'm just not going to worry about this year. I'm like, you can never be too far out. I mean, I understand we're on Groundhog Day. I understand it's February 2nd and baseball is about to be underway, but man, it's better late than never. And for me, I'd rather not jump to the gun and do a podcast or do an episode, about it, or do a segment that I'm not ready on. So being able, I know this is late, and earlier this week I did top 10 matches. Doing top 10 wrestlers today, I feel, is warranted. I got some time to think about it. It's a combination of men and women, but we'll talk about that here later on. A big news coming out, though, earlier this week, and that is Washington Commanders hired a new coach. Washington Commanders hired defensive coordinator Dan Quinn as head coach for this upcoming season. It kind of fits in with the new owners, Josh Harrison, and the new GM, Adam Peters. And they also get the number 2 pick. And I think that's very incredible. Dan Quinn was a head coach from 2015 to 2020 with the Atlanta Falcons. He had a 43-22 run with the Falcons. And let's not forget about that Super Bowl game where they went up 28-3, halftime. Tom Brady, the GOAT by all means, came back and just ended up finishing things off. He was also the defensive coordinator for 2013 to 2014 with the Seattle Seahawks under head coach Pete Carroll. I think this is very interesting. I think this is a very delicate move or situation here when it comes down to the this Washington Commanders. They're looking for that the Washington Commanders. They're looking, I think this is great because they're looking for a new system. They got a new owner, they got a new GM, they got a new head coach now, they got a top pick. So they really get a chance to break themselves down restart fresh and start from the ground up. Now, does that mean they go out and pick up a quarterback in the second round? I don't know, and I don't think so, in my opinion. But this gives them a refresh. And what other way than doing it from taking your top, your rivalry's defensive coordinator in the Dallas Cowboys? So I think this is just kind of, a nice little addition. And, you throw this out there and, I want to just, now you look at the Dallas Cowboys. At least I'm looking at the Dallas Cowboys right now. And what I see out of the Dallas Cowboys is that, they lost 3 consecutive years. They lost in the postseason. And this is that opportunity of making that change. Well, if you are tied up on a contract with Dak Prescott, and you may or may not be able to renegotiate that contract, and Jerry Jones is not willing to get rid of Mike McCarthy as head coach, then who else do you point fingers at? I think this is that ultimatum for the Dallas Cowboys that you have to make some sort of change. And if it wasn't Mike McCarthy and it wasn't Dak Prescott, then the only other options that you do have is Dan Quinn, defensive coordinator. I think it's easy for people to point fingers at the coordinators' positions when it comes down to these type of decision-making deals. I can always sit here and point fingers at Dan Quinn for the defense that he didn't provide out on the field and get away with it. This is whoever you bring in next for the defensive coordinator position for the Cowboys. You give, I don't know how many years you should give it. I say 2 at best. But if they don't give you something better, then you can't point fingers at the defensive coordinator anymore. You have to point fingers at the tail end of Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy. And, we're seeing here, before we get to the Super Bowl, which is just a little over a week away, we're seeing a lot of these coaching positions fill up very quickly. You know what name I don't hear going around town? I don't hear Bill Belichick. I read an article earlier today, actually earlier this week, about Jerry Jones says he has no doubt in his mind that they can work with a coach like Bill Belichick. And it got me thinking, because I've only been looking at Bill Belichick and maybe what some positions he'll be offering to take or be willing to take. And I see head coaching written all over the space, especially since he wants it at the contract he's desperately wanting. And I don't have a problem with Bill Belichick at head coaching, but it brought to my attention, I'm like, could you possibly see him as a defensive coach for an organization? And I think one of the difficulties when you ask that question is, can a team afford to pay a defensive coordinator the same price as a head coach? Because I'm only assuming that that's what Bill Belichick is going to want. And now come to think of it, Dan Quinn's out of the picture. Dan Quinn could be this, or the Cowboys could be this team that could put up the money. It's Jerry Jones. He could do what he wants. He's the owner of the Cowboys. And maybe Belichick could consider taking more of a backseat role, not having all the responsibility as a head coach, just work on the defense. So I was thinking to myself, this isn't a bad idea. I just think money-wise, Bill Belichick is a little bit more on the expensive side. But, what do we know? We know Mike McDonald, is over in Seattle as a head coach. We know that the Chargers have a head coach. We know that Atlanta has a head coach. We know that the Commanders now have a head coach. So, in other words, This goes right back around to Bill Belichick, who's a free agent. You're not a free agent, but he's off the mark. He's not. No one's really, the teams that were considering and talking to him are probably no more. So what does he do? I think taking a defensive coordinator position here could benefit a ball club and could benefit Bill Belichick. But that's my opinion. I digress on that. When we come back, I want to talk some NFL in the sense of who's better than the other. I saw this. I want to share this with you. We'll get some updates lingering around the real, road. We'll talk some Reds baseball. We got an impactful 2 hours you don't want to miss as the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel continues on the throw-in. Here next. Welcome back here on the throw-in. I know when it's away from our normal time slot, I had to make sure we get an episode in this week. Was kind of browsing the news. Haven't really got a chance to do a whole lot of that here this week. Just coming through about an hour ago, Carl Weathers dies at 76. Beloved actor for his role as Apollo Creed in the Rocky franchises passes away. Thoughts and prayers go out to his family. Man, tough loss. We're about a little over a week away from Super Bowl 58. We'll have a lot more to talk about between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. I know I talked briefly about it back on Monday, but I feel like it's important to address everything on a little bit more as we get closer to time. It just makes you wonder, as we approach, the off season, as we approach free agency, and we're seeing the success. We're seeing the success. And I just like to, there we go. Like to make that even. And no, we're gonna have to fix that during the break. But anyways, like to, you see the success, and you're just hoping that, we can get us, the Bengals, can get something that can ensure us that, all right, we can still make a run at this. Because even though Baltimore's not in the Super Bowl, there's a lot of great teams. Now, if you think about it, trying to not only have to beat Cleveland, not only having to beat Pittsburgh or Baltimore, you all have to find a way to continue to beat Buffalo and Kansas City, regardless of what your records have been in the past. Now you're going to have to find a way to beat the Chargers. I mean, that's 6, right? An entire division plus 1. I don't know. Hopefully Houston's a team to step around. Jacksonville is supposed to be just as good. So you kind of throw all that in the pot, and you're like, this AFC team, AFC is the best of the best. But how good is the best? Recently we established a few years ago that we found a GOAT, once in a lifetime GOAT, in Tom Brady, right? But the true question is that we're seeing a similar performance in Patrick Mahomes. So who says Patrick Mahomes can't be as good as Tom Brady? I mean, if not even better. And I want to pull this up. I saw some statistics about this. The first 6 seasons as a starter, including playoffs, Tom Brady was 82-26 with 3 Super Bowl wins, 3 AFC titles, 24,755 passing yards. Total touchdowns to interceptions was 167-87. That's Tom Brady in the first 6 years of his career. Now, given that's 20 plus years ago today, around this time. Patrick Mahomes, who was maybe about a decade ago, say about that range, 88-25, 2018, right? 88-25 with 2 Super Bowl rings, 4 ACF titles, 33,226 passing yards, and has a total touchdown to interception of 258-70. So theoretically, in the first 6 years of both of these men's careers, Patrick Mahomes has put up better numbers. So is he better than Tom Brady? I think, it was difficult for me to consider Tom Brady the GOAT he is today. But I've come to learn and respect what Tom Brady has given everyone in the years past. But it's hard. It's once in a generation that you can see a talent like Tom Brady. You talk about guys like Roger Staubach and, Joe Montana. And, when you throw out a guy, then you have Dan Marino. And, then it was Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger. Is Patrick Mahomes capable of surpassing Tom Brady as the GOAT? Numbers don't lie. And right now, numbers do tell the truth. Right now, Patrick Mahomes, under the year 2024, can be a better athlete, can put up better numbers. I would throw in the consideration with 20-year gap difference between Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, that when there's no social media, when there's no social media, the game was played a little bit tougher, less to protect the quarterback than does now. Plus, Thomas just was doing it for so long. 18, 20 years. He's earned that. I'm reading this article here. So let's work under the assumption that the Chiefs do defeat the Niners and claims Mahomes' third Super Bowl title. Congrats, you're just under halfway to catch Tom Brady's record, 7 Lombardi trophies. This is written on CBSSports.com by Tyler Sullivan back yesterday at 10:33 in the morning. This isn't the same scenario that Brady found himself in as he looked to unseat Joe Montana for this mantle, or even. If we expand outside of football, what LeBron James is trying to accomplish against Michael Jordan, Mahomes isn't chasing a ghost. These all-time greats have crossed paths with one another, not just for a random 4-week matchup in the regular season, but they were do-or-die legacy-making games, and Brady swept the series. With that in mind, Mahomes can't just match Brady's title totals. He sort of needs to blow him out of the water to make up those playoff losses, specifically that head-to-head loss in Super Bowl a couple years back, Chiefs Brady. So, and other references, things that we have to point out here in this category, is that when Tom, compared to Montana, who retired before Brady showed up in the NFL, Brady, I think it was much easier because now you really just couldn't tell apart from one person to the other because, what happens when you want to really determine who's the best, you put them toe-to-toe with each other. Montana and Brady couldn't happen that way. So what do you do, though, when Patrick Mahomes steps into the league? Tom Brady has already established himself. You already knew he was a future Hall of Famer. What does Patrick Mahomes have to do? He has to go one-on-one with Tom Brady. He had numerous times being with the Patriots. He goes over to Tampa Bay and has a Super Bowl, Tom Brady versus Mahomes, which is an incredible game. But then Tom Brady has always succeeded to have his number. So right now, Tom Brady has Patrick Mahomes' number. Well, what does Patrick Mahomes have to do then? He has the numbers right now as the first 6 starts. But see, Tom Brady had nothing to lose for the first 6 seasons. He had nothing to gain. He, as a matter of fact, had to play catch up because he was one of the last drafts, one of the quarterbacks that were overlooked. Therefore, he had much to prove as a backup quarterback in the league. So it took him 3, 4, 5 years of establishment before you can even actually recognize him. You say a quarterback is Tom Brady winning you the Super Bowl. Great, congratulations. Do it again. What did Tom Brady do? He did it 7 times. Now, Patrick Mahomes, and don't get me wrong, Patrick Mahomes, I think, is one incredible quarterback. He's showing us right now that he can do this with or without a top-notch team that's well synced together. He just beat he just beat the upcoming MVP of 2023. He just beat one of the best teams in the AFC. You know, he had to do it on the road. He had to go into Buffalo also and beat the Bills on the road, which is also something different. So, you know, Patrick Mahomes right now is showing us that he's capable of adapting and adjusting, which is great for a quarterback. But in order to even come close, because Tom Brady has the longevity, he has the victories over you, you have to win next Sunday at Super Bowl 58 before you could just be considered in the same conversation. It's not ideal, it's not unlogical, but in order for this to happen, you have to be able to accomplish this. And then you can look on longevity, you can look on passing records. You know, Tom Brady didn't say, all right, I'm going to go first 6 seasons and be it. That's it. And I'm going down as the greatest quarterback of all time. Tom Brady played for 10 plus years. And I think although Patrick Mahomes is a candidate to be in the conversation, along with Tom Brady as being one of the GOATs, I think he still has a lot to prove. He's only been in the league for a couple of years. And he has a great coach in Andy Reid. You know, these two guys have so much similarities, besides maybe the placement in the draft, that why would we let Patrick Mahomes be considered as a GOAT now? Here's my other take on it too, is that this is a different era of football compared to 20 years ago. They protect their quarterbacks. They put their quarterbacks in positions where they can succeed at. But the ultimate question is that maybe in today's era, who grew up watching Patrick Mahomes, they're going to consider Mahomes as the best quarterback in the NFL, as the GOAT. But if you grew up 10, 15, 20 years ago, you say Tom Brady is considered to be as the GOAT. And that conversation may never change. I mean, we want to compare a LeBron James and Michael Jordan. They were both successful in their own generation. How fair is it? Because the evolution of the game has changed. How fair is it to compare one athlete to a different athlete, to say that one athlete is better than another athlete in a different generation, where the rules have changed, where the equipment has changed? It's the same thing that goes with Babe Ruth and Shohei Ohtani. Everywhere you go, you see Shohei Ohtani be compared to guys like Babe Ruth. How can you even possibly compare nearly 100 years of in between? Babe Ruth was the greatest ball player of his time, of his generation, of his era. Shohei Ohtani may be the greatest ball player of this era, this generation, this time. But to argue to say that they are better than that Shohei Ohtani is better than Ruth, I think is a bit of far-fetched. Back hour number 2. Don't go nowhere. You guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, let's head on back to hour number 2, getting underway here on a Friday. Can't do this without the help of Spreaker. From iHeartRadio, Spreaker's not just an audio listening app. You can upload podcasts, view analytics from your podcast, and be able to monetize. Spreaker provides a download to all major audio platforms such as Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio included. And they have free versions. Check out their options today at Spreaker.com. Had an interview in hour number 1 with Steve Barber, the host of Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast, and Cubicle Chat. Talked about some Duke and North Carolina basketball that will be played tonight tomorrow night, on ESPN, February 3rd at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That was a good conversation. You can listen to us talking a little bit more about this rival on the Cubicle Chat. Download their podcast today. In a moment, we're going to be going over my top 10 athletes of 2023. But before we could do that, we got to talk about some more allegation issues with Vince McMahon. As you are aware, we covered a little bit last week that Vince McMahon was removed from the WWE. He resigned in the WWE through some allegations that were made. Some sex trafficking allegations from a former employee that used to work for the WWE, and now names have been spilled over, such as John Laurinaitis or even Brock Lesnar. And it's a very tough subject to handle, very tough subject to talk about, and I like to know more information before I even discuss this. But the reason I'm bringing this back up is because, therefore, to understand is that the levels that has been taken among TKO Group. TKO Group has decided, or the WWE has decided, to remove not only Brock Lesnar from the Royal Rumble Elimination Chamber, potentially WrestleMania, and potentially with the WWE remainder of his time, but they've also now started erasing Brock Lesnar's name and erasing Vince McMahon's name because of it. And all I can say is, listen, there's a zero tolerance when it comes down to these things. And the zero tolerance is unacceptable. And I think this is a bit, like I mentioned, as a fan, it's a bit frustrating to have to talk about this, nonetheless read about this. It's when you think of things like the Hulk Hogan incident, the Ric Flair's incidents, the allegations back in the past with using PED. And just to think that, Vince McMahon encouraged this, through, regardless of his family, being a grandfather, and whatnot, I think it's just on a different level. And I sure hope that no matter what happens, that there is some sort of consequence that Vince McMahon gets when it's all said and done. It feels like he sold the company because he knew deep down, somewhere along that line, that he knew this was coming. And he sells the company, and he wants to be acquitted of all responsibility for that. He resigns, but just because he resigns doesn't mean he should give it, it should never be talked about again. And the true people I really feel bad about is TKO, is the WWE in the future, because no matter, 20 years, 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, another allegation pops up, and you immediately think to yourself, Vince McMahon, WWE, just automatically it's a 1-2 punch combination. So to be able to, it's going to always impact the WWE in some shape or form. But I'm sure that the WWE are in good hands. 2023 was a big year for the WWE. I think it's fair enough to say a lot of people can agree. And earlier this week, I gave you my top 10 matches of the WWE. Now I'm going to come back and give you my top 10 athletes, wrestlers on the WWE. Yes, this is a co-gender top 25. I have a top 25. I created a top 25 early this week. I'm only going to share my top 10. Now, names that are not in the top 10 is people like Kevin Owens, who I think has had his success at the hands of the Sami Zayn and the Bloodline feud earlier on in the year. I think Dominic Mysterio has improved himself significantly this past year as a singles athlete, especially affiliating himself with the Judgment Day. I still think that a loss by his father at WrestleMania kind of helped build him a little bit. Just not making the cut is Becky Lynch. She comes in at number 11, but she's a wrestler noted in this list because she, whenever you carry someone that is a Hall of Famer like Trish Stratus, and don't get me wrong, she did well for herself in the ring. I think that's, also worthy of an accomplishment throughout, someone's career. Bailey with Damage Control, Baron Corbin has resurpassed himself a little bit among, in the NXT. And, then we get down the list, Asuka, Dragon Lee. So I'll post my top 25 list, but I have my top 10 afford you today. And starting off at number 10 is going to be Jey Uso. I think one of my biggest excitement seeing Jey Uso in this top 10 list is because, he's branched off. He had to separate from this bloodline, and he's had to step up to the plate a little bit. He wanted his own singles career, and sometimes when you're stuck doing a brotherly, tag team deal, it's a bit hard. I think he's handled himself in the ring, pretty well. He's earned himself a main event shot. Hopefully this isn't just something that bypasses by. So Jey Uso comes in at number 10. Coming in at number 9 is Damian Priest. One of the two Judgment Days I really like to highlight in this top 10. He's won the Money in the Bank. He didn't have a WrestleMania match, by the way, which I thought was pretty wrong to leave him out. But he made that up at a Backlash where he carried Bad Bunny in Puerto Rico, which was a really big event. I think that pay-per-view alone sparks a lot moving forward for the WWE. So, they excelled tremendously. You saw a lot of, like Carlito, LWO, Rey Mysterio at the time. So, and then he goes on to win the Money in the Bank. And, now it's kind of who's in power, Damian or Rhea. But he's setting himself up pretty nicely. That's why he comes in at number 8. Number 9, excuse me. Number 8 is LA Knight. Every year I think there is an athlete that gets a heavy push in the WWE, regardless if they win a championship or not. LA Knight was one of those this past year. Back in 2022, I think the argument could have been said about Austin Theory, although that did not really quite work out. Where is he at now? LA Knight feels like he's fitting in that role. It's kind of built up throughout the first half of the year, and now it's carrying into 2024. He's had himself a championship match, and he's not wasting time. And what I like about it is that he is one of your faces that has a lot of fan reaction, to his to whenever he comes out. So I tremendously like LA Knight. That's why he is in number 8. Number 7 has to be Logan Paul. And I know I'm going to get a lot of mixed comments and mixed feelings about this. You can't deny, regardless if you like him or not, what he's capable of doing inside that ring. He may not be the best outside the ring, and that's forgiven, but he's took some chances. We're looking at the Royal Rumble match where Logan Paul and Ricochet just jump ropes and hit each other. Then you take a look at Logan Paul and Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, having that WrestleMania moment. Now you're looking at Logan Paul going back, having that feud with Ricochet to a SummerSlam match, which was, I think, a fairly good match for what we're looking at. Then you're looking at, becoming United States champion, defeating Rey Mysterio. And, the way that we're seeing this now is that he could be a eventer inside. Inside WrestleMania this year. So although you may or may not like him, I get that, but you can't deny what he's capable of doing. He's definitely worked really hard to earn his position inside that ring in a shorter period of time. Number 6 is Roman Reigns. This is another controversy statement that I will have to just take a grind for, because Roman Reigns, he's at the top of the food chain still. And as long as he holds that title, I think he always will be. And this one's a bit difficult for me because yes, he has to be in the top 10 in my opinion. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of, stuff going on that's riding on his championship reign, his success, but he has not defended this title accordingly. Only 11 matches last year alone. Yes, he's had some incredible matches, but only 11 matches. I feel like they threw in a Logan Paul, or they threw in, an LA Knight just to bypass some time to get through another year. But, he hasn't really, he has not been a game changer in the WWE, and he hasn't really done anything to say, oh, he should be number 1. So that's why he's number 6. Number 4, Rhea Ripley. This is that other part of the Judgment Day that I was talking about. I think she's taken a bigger stand and a bigger role last year compared to Damian Priest. She goes on, wins the Royal Rumble. She ends up winning the SmackDown Women's Championship, defeating Charlotte Flair. She carries this title prestigiously. She's carrying the Judgment Day. And although there seems to be cracks and feuds inside the Judgment Day, it doesn't seem like it's gotten to her at all. Rhea Ripley fits at number 5. She's probably the top woman in the WWE, including now. And she's just waiting for that next opponent that could dethrone her. Coming in at number 4 is going to be the ring general Gunther. And I think someone, a wrestling fan who's watched WWE from start to beginning has to agree with me that Gunther deserves to be in this top 5 or even in the top 10 in this position. He went toe to toe at the Royal Rumble last year, where he entered number 1 and he lasted all the way until Cody Rhodes eliminated him. He went on and had a brutal triple threat match, okay, that ended up was probably the match of the year. And, he's surpassed the Honky Tonk Man, which I know a lot of people have feelings about that, but he's brought an image to the Intercontinental Championship. It's like, you got to defend it. You got to hold it up. And be proud of it. And he's done that in this IC title, and there just hasn't been a worthy opponent to come beat him. Maybe that will change this year. Number 3 is going to be Sami Zayn, and I think a lot of people may overlook Sami Zayn because a lot of his success and a lot of his involvement was at the first half of the year, where he ended up, I would say he was the mastermind behind the tarnation of the judgment of the bloodline. Sami Zayn, was being mistreated from Roman Reigns. Therefore, at SummerSlam, at the Royal Rumble, when Roman Reigns defeats Kevin Owens, and Roman Reigns wants to punish Kevin Owens, and at the hands of Sami Zayn, Sami rejected. This led into Sami retaliating and attacking Roman. This led to a championship match at Elimination Chamber and a title and a undisputed WWE tag team titles at WrestleMania alongside with Kevin Owens, beating the Usos in the main event of night 1. They go on to hold the title for quite some time throughout the year before then losing it. Sami Zayn alone kept on pushing the Usos to realize what Roman Reigns has been doing to them. He ended up causing the bloodline civil war. And he's played a huge part in the dynamic of change of the WWE in 2023. Coming at number 2 is Cody Rhodes. That dream that never got finished last year, he had to crawl back and say, all right, I'm going to take the next year and face everyone to re-earn that position. And he's earned it, beating Brock Lesnar, going on to beat, guys like Drew McIntyre, Shinsuke Nakamura, so on and so on. I feel like he's now deserved that championship opportunity once more. Cody Rhodes also having a healthy year, I think, is a key component to where he's at today. Coming in at number 1 is Seth Rollins, who won that World Heavyweight Championship back at Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. That's something else to mention, for Sami Zayn to finally have that match in that country after all these years. Seth Rollins has been the workhorse of the WWE. He's been the face of Monday Night Raw, and I would arguably be saying that he would be the face of the WWE despite Roman Reigns. So, and he's held that title just like Triple H wanted him to be a fighting champion who would defend that title anytime, any place, anywhere. And he's done that successfully against guys like Drew, Finn, Shinsuke, you name it, he's been through it. So Seth Rollins comes at number 1 in the top 10 WWE wrestlers of 2023. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come on back, I'm going to play the interview that I had with a good friend of mine promoting his convenience store. You guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Justin here from the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. I got a very special guest with me that will sit down and talk about his store coming up in a moment. But all of our guests is given to you thanks to StreamYard Studios, the proud home of the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel, where you can create podcasts, videos, host virtual business meetings, conduct interviews, and much more. Check out their free option at StreamYard.com. All right, at the moment, we are sitting live from his store. This is the original store he's opened up, and then he's expanded over the last couple of years elsewhere. Tony, my man, thank you for having us here. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Justin, for having me here. And man,
I'm really excited. I love, being able. Last year, I did a live actual podcast from a friend of mine. He invited me out up to Northern Ohio, in Hamilton, and he did a production play, and he invited me out. I did a couple shows up there that weekend. I love doing it where I could be on, actually physically there to talk to people and to get anything out and to see the product going out. But none, besides me, you had this envision to open up this store a few years back. Now it's called Aspire Glo. A lot of people can relate to other stores in the community area. Can you tell us a little bit about Aspire Glo, what it's about, and how did this all come about?
Well, this Aspire Glo, I started about a couple of years ago now. The name Aspire Glo came out with a vision and a dream that I always had. And it took me some time to visualize how we can, because the name itself has to be impactful. And one of the things that started, I visualized from a child's view. Aspire means inspiration, colorful, and that's where the glow. The second part of the name of the business is Glow. That's Aspire and Glow. And the logo, which is the most important part, and that itself plays a very big role because we are part of the Kentucky state. And the logo stands for the horseshoe. When you look at the logo itself, with the tie-dye color in it, and the story starts from there. And I had a dream, to get the American dream basically back again. That today, though they're all franchise and chain businesses, we also can.
Well, what's going on, everyone? Just the silky, the patterns of these pants that when you're just an average, shopper, you don't go walk into Walmart and see half of this stuff just laying around. So you display a lot of uniqueness when you bring in products to the store. Can you tell us a little bit more about the type of products that stand out that you wouldn't just find anywhere?
Well, before I opened the store, of course, I did a test phase for a different business, which I built very successfully, and actually became the number one in Florence, in Boone County, from a loss, which I took it to the leading. In fact, I compete with Spencer's and Hot Topic, so you can get an idea what kind of product lines I was competing with. But I went one step further. I wanted to make sure it was authentic, so I started getting, for example, if you look at the back side, this is coming from Mount Everest, which is made in Nepal. Now, Nepal is the only country in the entire world to make that kind of fabric. And one of the other things that I found out, all these events or where people go and buy that kind of stuff, which is you do get, but it's very, very difficult. Most of the people do not get a chance to look at it. One of the things is the pricing. And pricing is also where I come in picture. So if this can cost you about $75 to $80, the same thing at my store, now people can afford it with $29, which is phenomenal. Same thing goes on with my other product lines like tapestries. I get the world's most famous from India, a city called Jaipur, which is a handloom city of the world. So I have direct connection from there. So I bring a lot of fabrics from there. Then of course the tie-dye itself, that's if you look at this tie-dye, this fabric out here, nobody in the entire United States have. I make it in Mount Himalaya region. So getting a soft, good for your skin. So I'm very particular in this kind of area, and that's one of the reason I get my tie-dyes done for even for the babies, for the children. And when it comes to the crystals and gems, I found that a lot of places, wherever you find, most of the places do not have the original, authentic gem bracelets or stones or stuff like that. One of the examples is the gem trees. I have a manufacturing directly in India. It's a very well-known state in India called Gujarat, which is the world's most famous. And if you look at this, this is called A grade. No, this is called amethyst. Now, if you want to get amethyst with 700 beads, itself will cost about $280. We sell about 29 to 35 bucks out here. So like that, we carry a lot of unique things. I have things from Turkey. One of the best, the number one lamp in the world last 4,500 years is the handmade Turkish mosaic lamp. No, everyone can afford it. And that's one of the reasons now I started expanding to different locations.
I mean, there's, besides the prices, because I was astonished when I first started coming in here, talking with Tony here from the owner of Aspire Glo. But when I first came in here and I started looking at price comparisons, and then to understand how you get it directly from the source. For example, those tie-dye t-shirts, I got to tell you, you go buy tie-dye shirts or products, they fade away after a couple of years. With these material, these qualities, a little bit of good care to them, they last a lifetime. And that's because of the source that you're getting them from. But, there's so many, I think the best word I could put it, culture. You walk in here and you get a little bit of taste of everything, especially in, from countries that you wouldn't typically, like I said, find in, you talk about, crystal trees and, the lamps that you can, when you look at this designed handmade lamp, right, that was made by hand, delivered to you. It was a lot of effort, a lot of work into it. It's plugged in, and it does its job, but just the creativity behind it that you're just not going to find at this deal. This one here is marked out what? How much is
55 bucks?
55. And you're probably, if you're finding it online, you're finding it at another store, you're probably spending maybe double.
Actually, there's a store in Cincinnati.
Okay.
Painted Tree.
Yeah.
It's the closest place somebody wants to go and see in actual. It's in Painted Trees in Ohio, in Hamilton. The size, it's a little bit different from this, and that can cost you about close to $190. You can go and check it out. There's a display which I have of different kinds. The price comparison is staggeringly high, so it's all across US. So as much as I own the business, but I'm also very much monitoring in a sense that people are struggling. And one of the things is every product is so high. How can you afford it? So our family decided, and basically I decided, what, we have to make it very affordable.
So how does one do that? You got to make money off of it. How are you been able to? There's a reason why things are marked up. Because products are more expensive to get into stores and whatnot. How can you mark down your prices to the point where you can't beat that price anywhere else and still make a profit?
Oh yes, that's true. In fact, it is hard, but I know for a fact that in the long run it's going to be very fruitful, because you still make margins as long as you pay off your rent and take back home. That's all I'm looking. The idea behind that is to make it affordable, so it becomes like a word of mouth, and people say, this is a store that we can get anything and everything almost from all kind of unique stuff. And I think that itself can create profitable business. It takes a little bit more longer time than normal what people charge. Let's say if this is costing $150 and I'm selling for 55, of course they're making a lot of margin, but they have instinct how much they're making the profit. For me, I'm looking the long term. Instead of getting 10 people in to buy this, now I can get 100 customers to buy this.
Right.
And that's the vision I have. And that's one of the reasons I expanded in another 2 places.
Speaking with Tony, the owner of Aspire Glo, we're talking about prices and how you can't beat them, but it's also the product that you put out there. As we mentioned, Himalayan bags, Nepal, pants. You got your typical, hoodies and jackets, and everything brings a uniqueness. You have all of these gems and jewels. One of your biggest ones I noticed last year was all these bracelets that really have a connection, and a meaningful connection to the person who's buying it, or if you're buying a gift for somebody, like this one here is a specific tiger eye bracelet. And it gives you a description about the meaning behind it and what it does for you. So you have items for everybody spiritually and physically, all a well-rounded table. But, bracelets was your key thing now. I noticed that you transitioned into lamps last couple of months.
Now it's also something that extraordinary thing happened lately is the guitar
cases,
case,
right?
which has become the most unique in the entire country.
And I got to get myself one, by the way, because I play a little bit of guitar myself. I got a guitar. I just got a black standard case. I think that would be awesome just to carry around. And it's the fabric.
The fabric from Himalayas, and nobody in the US has in the physical store. So I get it shipped directly from Mount Everest.
Right.
It's one of the strongest fabrics in the world. Even if you know guitars, you can actually put your stuff in and go for hiking.
Right.
That's amazing thing about it.
But, you're not just about, the gems and jewels and crystals and lights. Recently you've been building up as a community. We live in the Northern Kentucky area. We're just 15 minutes away from, Paycor Stadium, Great American Ballpark. You love supporting the locals. I know when we talked, you try to support me all the time. You support other local businesses, but you support the sports teams. You have been growing on getting, sports merchandise, t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, if you can. They got lanyards over here. Tell me how important it is for you, because I know there is an importance as a community, but how important it is for you to bring the community involved. I mean, you even sell products that other people bring into display, right?
Yes,
and you're not necessarily making a whole lot of profit on those, but you're like, hey, let me help you out. You bring a couple of your, some kid published a book last year, a couple years ago, that you and I was just happened to be talking in the store one day. The guy brought in and he brought us the book, and you still have a couple left.
I do have.
You've sold a couple.
Yes.
He was nice enough to give me one, but just stuff like that. So what is the importance of, what does the community mean to you when it comes down to Aspire Glo?
Well, that's everything to me. And one of the things that I did something very different that nobody thought about it. So I could have easily put Aspire Glo in Florence, where it's a busy shopping area, and I could have really stormed the business, literally. But my goal was my community. When I came from India, landed here, I've been living here in Fort Mitchell, which is a whole area of Crescent Spring, Villa Hills. This all surrounding, and I fell in love with it, and I know what it gave back to me. I'm talking about. I look at beyond that. I mean, the safety, everything. It's all police officers. They're all involved. I mean, I go that far, and I said, you know what? There's something missing here. We never had a retail store. Never. We have all kind of store. You have restaurants and nail salons, but never something for community. They have to reach out somewhere else, go to shopping plaza, I also go more for that. What about the seniors? Seniors, they have a difficult time. They can't just go to shopping plazas and all. They try to stay away. I needed something that can be easy and accessible. So I look in all the factors, then the schools which are around here, and I want to give. And I said, you know what, I need to invest this and do something for the community here, and so they do not have to go too far away, and it has to be much bigger than that. Be part of the events, part of the community build up to charities, fundraising. I've been involved left and right in this. I always look forward to it. And yeah, that's something like a I'm humanitarian part of me.
Well, I mean,
It's
this
much more.
isn't a Walmart. This isn't a shop at the mall where you get business. You're building a relationship with the
Correct.
community,
Yes. very true.
with the city of Kentucky and Cincinnati. You guys were what? Aspire Glo is established 2021 or 22?
2021.
2021. It's still growing. I know you've been at this store location, which is off of Buttermilk Pike on the 71 freeway or 75, whichever one you consider. And it's right next to the La Rosa's too, so you can't miss it. You can stop by, have something great to eat at La Rosa's, because who
Right.
doesn't like La Rosa's? And then stop by Aspire Glo and just check out all the great deals that Tony has here. But you've been expanding here lately.
Yes. correct.
We just actually worked on setting you up. It's still a growing process, but a website, that you guys could check out here. It's www.aspire, ASPIRE -glow, GLO. I don't want you guys to mistake that with GLOW. It's glow as GLO.com. That is www.aspire-glow.com. The description, the website will be in the descriptions below of these videos. Check out the website. They have a handful of things, but we're still working on getting more product up there. But you've also started expanding other places. You've gone up to Lebanon. You have another mini shop down the street from here. Explain about your growth here over the last recent couple months.
Well, because I'm in a small shopping plaza, and when I saw a lot of people took interest in the product line that I had, the unique, almost close to more than 100 kinds of products. And some of the customers who came, they asked me if I wish you would have also been in Cincinnati. We drive 45 minutes just to come here to check, not just to check the store itself, but the product, the uniqueness that you carry. And we thought about it, and then I realized that I need to reach out and create more proximity for people who are a little bit further away, who are my regular customer. And it got me, I thought about it. And I said, okay, so now there's one in Lebanon Road, and which is called Traders World, which is open on the weekend. So you can come down there as well. Have a huge display of mosaic lamp and some other stuff. Then lately, just a couple of weeks ago, put up a vendor store at a very, very famous place called Crestfield Town Center. New shopping experience that started called Painted Tree. So there I put two booths. One main booth is again the mosaic lamp, where I'm reach out because this is a beautiful. So I'm trying to get some beautiful things in people's home. If you look the way the world is working today, it's been stressed out and so many things going on. But now you have something can bring beauty at your home, and that's one of the reason I'm expanding.
I mean, I think it's noted that you have to expand, because that's what business calls. One thing that's great about you're very, very open armed, welcome to in person. You're easy, to talk to, which is great for the business. And it's you going out to the customer saying, hey, listen, here's our product. You can't beat these prices anywhere. But at the same time, it's like, these crystal trees, these lamps, they're not just bringing beauty to your home. They are bringing conversations, right? You always talk about it.
Absolutely.
Same thing with the in the background, you see these photos or these portraits. And And then, you also have a little bit of everything. Like you said,
Like
clothing.
rock and
items.
roll. I'm getting the
Rock and roll.
old music back again in the United States.
Yeah, you're starting
Yeah,
that
from
trend
Led
back.
Zeppelin
Bring
to
back Kiss and
Zeppelin and
Black
everything.
Sabbath, and it's great because you actually have designs up there that I don't think you find elsewhere. These
Yeah,
are
I'm very specific. I
yeah.
choose my own designs. With
But between tie dye, between the clothing items, between the incense and the crystals and the jewels and the gems, there's a little bit of everything for everybody here at Aspire Glo. 2024. You survived the pandemic. Okay, you had it's been an up and down for the last couple of years. Looks like you are starting to take off, which is great. What are you looking forward to in 2024, if not even further, to help just grow the business?
Well, that's a tough task, but yeah, I am looking for a very successful moving forward. I have still some plans to get some new product lines, and which is going to blow people's mind off. But idea is to also have more different locations where we can put up so people. I'm trying to create a brand so people remember Aspire Glo, and that's the whole idea behind that. Idea behind that is a relationship. It's not a typical business. When people come in my store, they feel literally home. I've seen customers who spend really at least 1.5 hours on average. It's quite a few customers. Then they come in groups, especially a lot of women. Oh my God, they feel wow, this is amazing. What an experience they have. But more importantly, there's a reason also why I want to expand. Now, this is something a lot of people have not, they don't think on that, but I do. One of the reasons why I want to make not in 2024 a very successful year and to expand, but beyond, is that to give hope to now today's Americans that, you know what, we can get started in our own small business. You can even get started with small. If Tony can start with a very difficult period post-pandemic in a place where there is no shopping plazas, nothing, and just to give you a glimpse that you too can do it. And this is where I want to give hope that, get started. It's no big deal. Don't take big risk if you cannot, but start somewhere. Let's get our American dream back again.
Like you just said, the American dream, hope.
Very important.
Anyone can do it. It's also that fear that, hey, I gotta lose some in order to make some. You definitely have taken a hit, over the last couple of years, but you look like you're starting to find your feet a little bit, and be able to gain some, and hopefully
some artists in. In fact,
we do.
I got a couple of people to sell their stuff.
Right,
so giving them an opportunity, a front window, which nobody know. Retail store actually allows. I had a couple of customers who had some product lines, and they said nobody allows you in retail store. So I feel
one of the items I noticed a couple weeks ago was those 3D dragons.
Correct.
That were made, and they're incredible. You just have to come down and see it. Help out Aspire Glo, help out Tony here by coming in, stopping by at one of the locations here. I'll get the addresses and the names. I know Trader World's up in Lebanon. There's the Crestview Town Center, and then you have here in Crescent Springs, right?
Yes.
That you're open 6 days a week. 10 a.m. to 8 p.m.
10 a.m. to 8 p.m.
And if you just come in, if not, visit the website www.aspire-glo.com.
You can even call me directly.
You could call his contact information's on the website. Contact him directly. And even if you guys are making product and you guys want to maybe talk to Tony about setting up, hey, I got some product that you could sell here too, he's open for that.
Or even a wholesale distribution, which
he does it. He's a big collection. I'm going to put this out here because this is one thing that people don't know about you. And I know we've been trying to collaborate on something. If you guys are if you guys have a corporation or a business, school, project, fundraiser, whatever, his main element are these tie-dye shirts. Hang these up again. And if you guys need a design on them, if you guys need to order a whole bunch for an event or a venue, contact Tony, and he'll be able to get you the best deal possible at supporting whatever fundraiser, whatever community event, whether it's a church, school, business, whatever the case may be. Tony has you covered with some tie-dye shirts. I'm sure you're able to get stuff printed still on them. So if you need a logo on it, you need your own writing on it, you could just always talk to Tony. He'll be able to hook you up. Prices you can't beat. And stop on by. Come say hi. Even if you don't buy anything, just say hi. Let your friends know, hey, this place is here. As we grow, we will love you guys to come by and be involved in the growth of it. All right. This is Tony's dream, but he's given his dream to you guys, the listeners, right? To come in here and to share his dream and help this business, these products grow and move forward. Fair enough to say?
You said, I feel so humble.
But
you.
Tony, thank you for the time. This
Justin.
isn't going to be the last time. We'll come back and do shows, do interviews. I may even be able to work out a deal and do a show live at one of your locations at some point down the road. But in the meantime, check out Tony, check out Aspire and Glo, check out the website at www.aspire-glo.com, and be sure to get some products, get some one-of-a-kind, antique, handmade. There's not going to be another one made like this lava lamp here, no one item's duplicated. Everything is unique.
Is very unique. Everything is very different.
But Tony, thank you for the time. I appreciate it. And until next time, hopefully everything. Wish you the best of luck. That's Tony, the owner of Aspire and Glo. Be sure to check out their products, and the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel is proud to have him as a guest on our show. All righty. Well, I had myself a fun experience talking with Tony. He's right down the street from actually where I live, so it wasn't much of an inconvenience on bringing him out, going out there. And, I love doing shows live in person if I can do interviews or shows. I had, like I said, in that interview, I had the opportunity last year with a good friend of mine named Terry, the founder of the Enlightened Studios here in Cincinnati, and got a chance to do a couple live interview broadcast at a upcoming play that he displayed called Love's Not Enough. And it was a part of a big promotion, everything that we're doing and everything that was going on. So, we're hoping to get him on here shortly. But if you missed any of that and you just want to maybe go back out and check the interview, be sure to just check out our YouTube page and our audio platforms. We will be breaking that down and giving that to you guys as well. Listen, sometimes I really try to really play out those things accordingly. Sometimes it's a hit or miss. But we're done with talking about sports this week. Hey, listen, we got SmackDown going on. The fallout of the Royal Rumble falls over into SmackDown tonight. Cody Rhodes has a big decision that he's going to have to make. And I don't expect him to make it right away, right? He won the men's 2024 Royal Rumble match. And I think, to credit, majority of the fans are going to suggest that he goes on and faces Roman Reigns, right? Finish the story. But Seth Rollins made that interesting promo cut back on Monday, basically saying, hey, we can do more magic in the ring. Now, Seth Rollins is dealing with the torn MCL. And I think right now they're choosing to wait off on surgery. And if he can make it to WrestleMania, then maybe possibly drop the title from there. That's speculations. So to see Cody Rhodes challenge or Seth Rollins offer his Royal Rumble challenge to Seth Rollins, I feel it's a bit a one-way path, right? Here's my one-way path. I think it would be a great match between Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes. But then you have Damian Priest lurking with the Money in the Bank briefcase, which then kind of just goes back and ruins everything Cody just earned his way to. Although Damian could cash it in on a Cody and Roman's match, let's not mistake that. But you're also considering Cody could be taking advantage of a weak Seth Rollins. And then if Cody doesn't automatically challenge, like I said, Roman is stepping up to the challenge. He knows what he's facing. He's done it before. He's beaten Cody before. So in realistic hindsight, if Cody doesn't choose Roman, and then Paul Heyman Roman has this now baggage behind him saying Cody is soft. Cody doesn't want to face the toughest opponent, yada, yada, yada. And so I feel like Cody has no other choice but to face Roman Reigns yet again this year. So what we still have to officially wait. I think it's a piece where you can now sit on for a couple weeks because you have the Elimination Chamber coming up. You got Bayley, who won the women's Royal Rumble match. Now, according to what we can assume the storyline will proceed, is Bayley turning on Io Sky and challenging her for that women's championship. We're supposed to hear from Logan Paul and Roman Reigns tonight. So a lot of great action there. Duke, North Carolina, tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't miss that. Don't want to miss that. There's a lot of great stuff going on there. What can we expect on the show? I got some, major league trades options. We're going to dive into some football conversations next week, particularly around the Kansas City Chiefs, San Francisco Giants, as we get ready for the Super Bowl. You also think about it, less than 2 weeks, we will see pitchers and catchers report. In less than 3 weeks, we will see much more. I want to say thank you for everyone who joined our show, given to you thanks to StreamYard Studios, proud home of the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Also, thought to give a big shout out for the music provided today at Epidemic Sound. Discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link. For more information, check out epidemicsound.com. All right, that's all I have for you this afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Enjoy your weekend, and come back and visit us Monday, where we talk and get you up on all things sports. Thank you guys for tuning into the Throw-In. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And until next time, you guys take care. Thank you guys for tuning in on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.